The shocking truth about the King of Kings that angels bow before. Few knew what truly happened that night in Bethlehem. The air was thick with whispers, as the stars flickered like candle flames above. A birth that would change everything. Shepherds trembled, hearts pounding in their chests. What was happening? An inexplicable light flooded the fields, illuminating their fears and hopes. A baby lay in a humble manger, cradled in swaddling clothes, but this was no ordinary child. This was the one. In that ancient, dusty town, expectation crackled like the lightning that rolled through the heavens. The world teetered on the brink of a cosmic revelation. It was a night sealed with prophecy. Isaiah had spoken of a child to be born, a son to be given, but no one could fathom the depths of this truth. Who was this king? The angels hovered above, cloaked in divine whispers, their voices echoing, announcing glory and peace to earth. Men fell to their knees, awestruck, even the mighty bowed to this infant. A star brighter than any other flared in the night sky, guiding seekers across deserts. Every step cracked the ground with history. Wise men noble, gifted, wise journeyed to witness the birth that would shake foundations. And yet, the king remained unrecognized by those who claimed their thrones. Why didn't the rulers see? Why were the powerful blind to the miracle unfolding before their eyes? Tension hung heavy. It was a world divided by disbelief. Miracles sparked in the air. The maiden Mary carried a treasure, untouched by sin. Joseph stood strong but felt the weight of the universe pressing upon him. He was torn, wrestling doubts in the silence of the night. Could he believe? Families huddled in disbelief, some cheered, others sneered. Their king? An infant? The murmurs spread like wildfire. Yet, the truth lay cloaked in simplicity, waiting to be unveiled. For every revelation, shadows lingered. What fate awaited this child? A savior or a target? As nights turned to days, hopes began to intertwine with trepidation. What awaited, revealed through the veil of time? Rumors buzzed in the market square, casting doubt like shadows on every face. Expectation danced with fear. Would the world recognize him? Was his arrival a gift or a call to arms? The heart clenched tight with uncertainty. As the first beams of dawn crept over the horizon, illuminating the path ahead, one thought lingered: what was to become of the King of Kings, the child of prophecy? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. In the days that followed, the gentle cries of the infant resonated through the humble abode, filling the stillness with a sweet urgency. Mary cradled the child in her arms, her gaze resting upon his cherubic face, and in those moments, every ounce of doubt from Joseph's heart melted under the weight of love and marvel. How could something so magnificent come from such simplicity? The world had crafted thrones and crowns, but this moment was a reminder of a deeper truth, one veiled yet omnipresent. As the sun ascended in the sky, casting long shadows upon the ground, rumors began to spread like leaves caught in a brisk autumn wind. The townsfolk of Bethlehem spoke in hushed tones, eyes darting. Some felt an inexplicable pull towards the stable, as if drawn by invisible strings, while others dismissed the events as folly, far removed from their understanding of kingship. What did a king look like? A crown adorned with jewels? An army at his command? How then could this child, cradled in a feeding trough, be a herald of change? And yet, the wise men pressed onward. They journeyed not merely propelled by the light of the star, but by a gnawing sense of destiny. They followed the celestial guide, bearing gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh, each offering reverberating with significance. Gold for a king, frankincense for divinity, and myrrh for a life destined to bear suffering. Would they see the truth hidden, or merely externalize their expectations, projecting onto him their interpretations of greatness? As they arrived, the air buzzed with anticipation. Perhaps this moment would shatter the veil of misunderstanding that had cloaked the hearts of men. They entered the stable with hearts wide open, curious to witness what their long-foretold prophecies would unfold. Little did they know the truth was to be revealed not in grandeur, but in humility, a radical inversion of every notion they held dear. Mary caught their gaze, and in an instant, the world outside slipped away. She presented her child, the fragile form of the King of Kings, to these noble seekers. In that sacred moment, time stilled, eternity brushed against the mundane, and the world became aware of its depth. How could such magnitude exist in such smallness? The wise men knelt, overwhelmed, allowing their hearts to break open in the presence of pure love. Stories of his birth rippled through the kin of Israel, stirring hope amongst the downtrodden. Yet, with every whisper of salvation came a swell of fear. Rulers far and near sensed upheaval, a tide turning within their grasp. What would they do with such a child, one who could unravel their power with a mere word? As days unfolded, Mary pondered in her heart the duality of joy and dread. What would be the course of her son's life? Love flashed brightly against the looming shadows of a world unprepared for the enormity of his mission. The prophecies danced just out of reach, waiting to be unfurled at the right moment. And yet, as she held the child close, wrapped in swaddling clothes, another question lingered like dawn's first light on the horizon. Would the world embrace their king when the time came, or would they turn away, blinded by what they had always known? In the days that followed the arrival of the wise men, the stillness of Bethlehem was punctured by the soft rustle of whispers. News of the miraculous child spread like wildfire, not just through the streets but to distant lands and cultures, igniting hearts with newfound curiosity. The shepherds, having witnessed the heavenly chorus and the divine proclamation, found themselves recounting their experience to anyone who would listen, their voices trembling with the intensity of what they had seen. Among those drawn to the child were the poor and forgotten, the weary laborers and the outcasts of society. They ventured with empty hands but hearts brimming with desperate hope. Would this child extend compassion to the lowly? Or would he, too, be swept away by the currents of power that ruled the earth? Mary watched as they approached, their faces illuminated with the light of unsteady faith. She felt both trepidation and gratitude. Perhaps their hope would intertwine with her own. While the townspeople vacillated between awe and skepticism, the religious leaders cloaked themselves in caution. The elders gathered in their synagogues, their brows furrowed in deep contemplation. Could this humble birth herald the promised Messiah? They had anticipated the coming of a conqueror, one who would overthrow their oppressors with might and majesty. This child, however, existed in stark contrast to their expectations. Desperate to maintain order, they began to weave together tales of uncertainty, framing the wondrous event as a threat rather than a blessing. One evening, while the cool breeze outside rippled through the fields, Mary sat quietly with Joseph, her mind swirling. In the flickering light of the oil lamp, she struggled to grasp her thoughts. Joseph, sensing her unease, asked, "What stirs within you, my love?" Mary looked down at the swaddled infant, and the weight of the world seemed to press on her shoulders. "I wonder if we've been chosen for a purpose far greater than we can understand," she admitted. "A purpose that might lead to pain as well as joy." Joseph nodded thoughtfully, reflecting on the angel's message, a profound promise wrapped in mystery. Together, they emerged from their reverie, but an unsettling feeling lingered like an insecure shadow. How would their lives intertwine with the destiny of the world? As dawn approached one day, somehow brighter than the last, stirring reminders of prophecies long foretold began to crystallize in her mind. She recalled the words of Isaiah, "For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given." Yet another voice echoed, warning her of the anguish that would come upon their child. The profound and terrible weight of his calling was as palpable as the warmth radiating from the infant. Was greatness to be birthed from this delicate existence, or was it destined to suffer under the burden of human frailty? during these contemplations, a group of scholars from the East arrived, drawn not by the tales of humble beginnings but by a deeper, burning question: what did it mean for a king to come to his people clothed in vulnerability? Their own hearts were laden with questions of power and sacrifice, and they too brought offerings not of gold, frankincense, or myrrh, but of their wisdom and understanding. Mary welcomed them. In their presence, a holy discourse enveloped the room, and they ventured to discuss the nature of the universe, the interconnectedness of heaven and earth, the unfolding tapestry of time that wove threads of destiny and choice. As they spoke, Mary felt each thread entwined with her own story. Among their musings, one scholar posed a question that resonated deeply within her: if a king is to redeem the world, what must he relinquish in the process? What truths shall his actions unveil? Mary pondered, sensing that both sacrifice and glory were intricately linked in the destiny of her son. Was the essence of his reign to reveal not just power over kingdoms, but the sovereign strength of love that transcends all suffering? The mystery felt heavier than a stone, yet more exhilarating than any crown. As their conversations folded into silence, Mary realized that with every answer they sought, deeper questions emerged within her heart. Was the world ready to embrace this radical redefining of greatness, a truth that would upend their long-held views? She held the child close, feeling the rhythm of his heartbeat against her own. The dawning question remained, like a weightless whisper in the air: would the hearts of men be opened wide enough to recognize their king in the simplicity of his humility, or would they forsake the true light for shadows of their own making? The sun climbed higher in the sky, casting golden rays that seemed to touch every corner of Bethlehem. Yet, despite the beauty of the day, a heaviness enveloped the hearts of many. The arrival of the wise men had stirred both excitement and unrest. As they shared gifts fit for a king, a new layer of expectation shadowed Mary and Joseph's humble abode. That afternoon, a sudden commotion erupted in the streets. Voices rose and fell like waves crashing against the shore. Rumors swirled that King Herod had summoned the scholars. The air crackled with tension, as fear intermingled with intrigue. What did this mean for the child whose birth had ignited such fervor? Would his life, so recently treasured, become the focus of royal jealousy? Mary noticed the way Joseph's brow furrowed as he listened intently to the whispers of those passing by. Exhaustion lay in the lines of his face, but within him, a deep resolve began to rise. "We must be vigilant," he murmured. "The safety of our son may depend on our actions." The wise men returned from their audience with Herod, their demeanor somber. They had come seeking a king but contended with the shadow of a tyrant. In hushed tones, they shared how Herod had feigned interest, cloaking his true intentions with a false sense of civility. Were they merely pawns in a dangerous game of power? The scholars merged their wisdom with caution, urging Mary and Joseph to remain alert. In a quiet moment later that night, Mary found herself wandering outside, feeling the cool night air wrap around her like a balm. The stars shone brightly above, each a reminder of promises yet fulfilled. She reflected upon the enormity of their position in this divine design. What if we are not just guardians of the child but participants in a larger plan? She asked herself aloud. Would they all be called to endure trials that would lead to a greater revelation? Joseph stepped outside, sensing the weight of her thoughts. He reached for her hand, grounding her with his steady presence. "What stirs in your heart, my love?" he asked gently. "The night feels alive with expectation," Mary replied, gazing up at the heavens. "But along with the promise lies the fear of what might be required of us. Heavy is the load of love if it leads to suffering." Joseph shifted closer, tilting his head toward the stars. "Never has there been a path to greatness unmarked by sacrifice. But we must trust that the journey is not ours alone. The heavens conspire with us." In that moment, a sudden feeling washed over Mary. She envisioned a wider expanse of kinship across generations, a tapestry not just of her lineage, but of every soul who would listen to the call of this tiny king. Yet, the image was clouded by the chilling thought of opposition. How many would refuse the revelation that transformation often comes wrapped in vulnerability? Days passed, and whispers of a dark decree tightened their grip on the community. Joseph wrestled with his responsibilities, torn between his role as protector and his deepening connection to the divine purpose unfolding before them. The midnight hour became a time of fervent prayer, each plea woven with the threads of desperation and hope. One evening, as the shadows lengthened and the stars flickered like tiny lanterns, Mary felt an urgent stirring in her heart, urging to seek further answers. Inviting the wise men once more into her home, she posed her own question this time: what does it mean to shepherd a king within the complexities of this world? How do we lead those who walk in darkness to embrace the light? Their deliberation was thick with contemplation. Each scholar had seen kingdoms brought low by folly and oppression, yet they also spoke of hearts transformed by grace and love. To lead is to serve, to illuminate the shadowed paths with the flame of truth, one of them spoke softly. Yet the greatest challenge lies in the willingness to confront the darkness within ourselves. As they pondered, Mary felt the fabric of time stretch. Each instant resonated with the awareness that the coming days would demand more than their hearts alone could give. Would they, with all their human frailty, rise to meet the call placed upon them? When the wise men departed under the blanket of night, Mary whispered a silent prayer, an echo of hopes and fears intertwined. With her arms wrapped around her child, she wondered if the world was indeed ready to face this shocking truth that the King of Kings would change the course of history not through might, but through an unwavering embrace of love that would transcend even the deepest suffering. Her heart ached with one final question, lingering in the cool night air: would they welcome a king who came not to conquer, but to lead their hearts back home? In the days that followed, the atmosphere in Bethlehem thickened with uncertainty. Each gust of wind carried murmurs further into the town's crevices, weaving tales of treachery and awe. The once celebratory mood surrounding the child's birth was now shadowed by the specter of Herod's wrath. The wise men had warned, and the cautionary whispers urged families to remain vigilant. Mary and Joseph sought solace in the depths of their humble abode. The walls echoed with the lullabies of a newly born king, yet the undertones of apprehension seeped through. In the stillness of the night, Joseph often wrestled with thoughts that rolled like thunder in his mind. How could they protect the child who held the weight of the world's hopes? With each passing moment, he realized the enormity of what lay before them. Underneath the stars, Joseph knelt one evening, his heart heavy but resolute. Praying fervently, he sought guidance, yearning for a sign that would illuminate their path amidst the encircling fear. "O Lord, what must we do?" he implored. "Show us the way to safeguard this precious gift." As dawn broke the horizon, a vision unfolded before him, a whisper from the heavens, gentle yet insistent. He saw the child, not as just his son, but as the embodiment of divine mercy bound for a turbulent world. And with that vision came the realization that they were not merely protectors, but also messengers. Meanwhile, Mary was grappling with the weight of her calling. Each day, she felt the profound connection to the child grow deeper. When she held him close, warmth surged through her, as if the love from the heavens flowed between them. Yet, with that love came the unsettling awareness of what his future might hold. One evening, beneath the dim light of an oil lamp, she gathered the wise men one last time. "In the midst of our fear, we must understand the true nature of this child," she said, her voice unwavering. "What must we do to prepare our hearts and the hearts of others for the truth he brings?" The scholars exchanged solemn glances, their brows furrowing in deep contemplation. "What we have witnessed is more than mere circumstance," one of them finally said. "The stars foretold of a new dawn, yet it is darkened by the dilemmas of humanity. His arrival is a paradox of great joy intertwined with sorrow. Prepare not only for celebrations but for acceptance of the burdens that must also be shared." Mary pondered this revelation, feeling a tension in her chest. But how? How do we convert joy into an understanding that embraces the weight of sacrifice? "The answer lies in witnessing his truth," another sage responded, his eyes shimmering with wisdom. "There are many who will seek him, yet many who will not understand." The heart carries both courage and trepidation. The journey begins within. People must first see him in themselves, in their struggles and in their aspirations. Realizing that her role extended beyond that of a mother to a burgeoning king, Mary felt a stirring within her spirit. It would not suffice to nurture him alone, their family would have to awaken the hearts of those who had grown distant or disenchanted. As the wise men prepared to depart, Mary made a silent vow, holding her child closer still. She would not let fear dictate their narrative, they would be conduits of hope. Beneath the burden of anticipation, a flicker of resolve ignited in her heart. Days turned into restless nights, as many of Bethlehem spoke of the ominous decree, and families grew increasingly wary. Each child born during this tumultuous time seemed to carry the weight of not just individual fears but collective aspirations. Would this king bring light to their struggles or overshadow their existence? The question haunted Mary and Joseph, yet they stood unwavering, choosing to embody the faith that went hand in hand with fear. And so, as the sun set one fateful evening, enveloping the town in hues of crimson and gold, Mary observed the world around her, a tapestry of intertwined fates. Is it possible, she mused softly, that the darkest paths may yet lead to the brightest truths? How do we prepare ourselves to embrace a king who is both brave and vulnerable? With these thoughts weighing heavy in her heart, she stepped inside, wondering if the world was truly ready to embrace this king, a leader who would teach them that love often demands as much courage as it does sacrifice. The night swirled with unanswered questions as the sacred mystery of their journey deepened. As the days progressed, whispers of unrest seeped into every corner of Bethlehem. Every child born, cry echoing through the chilly air, was met with both joy and an undercurrent of dread. Mothers clung tightly to their little ones, praying against the storm of fear that loomed over their village. Meanwhile, Joseph's heart wrestled with sleepless nights as a protective mantle embraced the tiny form of the child in his arms. One fateful night, a gentle knock on their door disrupted the stillness. It was a humble shepherd, weary from his journey. Breathless with urgency, he spoke of a Visiona celestial chorus that guided him toward the dwelling of the new king. "I came to bring tidings of a hope that will rise even in the darkest of times," he said, eyes sparkling with reverence. "The angels proclaimed this child's destiny, and they called us to witness a miracle." Mary felt the light of the shepherd's words seep into the intertwining shadows of her heart. The night air was heavy with the promise of something sacred. Still, doubt whispered its dread into the depths of her soul. "Will this child truly be the savior we long for?" she asked the shepherd. "What if the world is not ready to behold him? What if the burdens of life overwhelm the promise of his light?" "Those who seek him shall find," the shepherd replied, kneeling at her feet. "But understand, Tsid is not only a light to find, it is a path to walk. Your child will walk among the broken-hearted and the lost, revealing truth in a way that will challenge the very fabric of human understanding. He will gift you the strength to bear the shadow and the light." Time seemed to stretch in that moment as Mary processed his words. What a weight it was to bear the realization that her son was destined to bridge the chasm between despair and hope. The shepherd withdrew, the intensity of his gaze still lingering in her thoughts as she turned to Joseph. Is the world truly prepared for a king founded in humility and love? She questioned. Will they recognize him amongst their fears? Joseph pondered this, staring out into the velvet night speckled with stars. Perhaps the question is not what they are prepared for, he replied thoughtfully. But rather, how we will guide them to see what they need to believe in, that the light exists not only in power but also in compassion. The call is not merely for acceptance, but an invitation to transformation. Later that evening, the couple gathered their thoughts, hopeful yet apprehensive. They spoke of the shepherd's vision and the possibility of a new journey that lay ahead. How could they prepare a weary world for what was to come? Their hearts beat in sync, an understanding forming amidst the unease. Their home had become a sanctuary for holy potential, yet layers of obliviousness surrounded them. As twilight wrapped its arms around Bethlehem, Mary's mind swirled with an overlapping constellation of thoughts. Amongst the fears of future struggles, was there a path that led to acceptance and understanding? What if the truth of this king demands more than belief? She mused aloud. What if it calls for action born of love? Are we ready to show the world the fullness of his grace? In the deepening silence, the weight of her responsibility grew. The evening echoed with the stories of those affected by Herod's decree, hearts heavy with doubt and despair. Would love triumph over fear? How could they illuminate the path when the shadows threatened to envelop them? As the stars began to fall in whispers of light across the sky, the question lingered in the air, softly wrapping around them as they turned in for the night. Were they able and willing to risk everything in service of a king whose reign would redefine power and grace? And amidst the uncertainty, could they cultivate a faith that held both fear and courage, illuminating the hearts of the many who walked their own shadowed paths? The sun began to rise over Bethlehem, casting a golden hue on the humble dwelling where Mary and Joseph had settled. Morning light seeped through the cracks in the walls, illuminating the room where the infant lay sleeping, a serene embodiment of promise. The world outside stirred as the day commenced, yet an unshakable stillness lingered in the air, the kind that often heralds significant events. As the day progressed, Mary felt an unquenchable longing pull at her heart. With each sound from outside, the laughter of children, the chatter of market sellers, there was an accompanying ache, as if the very world was calling out for their blessing. "Joseph," she said softly, turning to her husband as they tended to the child. "Do you hear how alive it is out there? Perhaps there is a way for us to reach beyond these walls, to show the people the hope nestled against our own hearts." Joseph nodded, folding his arms pensively. "Yes, but how do we share what we cannot fully comprehend? What words do we have, when all we carry are fragments of a profound mystery?" His brow knit in thought, the weight of their unfolding reality evident on his face. Each interaction seemed heavy with potential, and yet the expectations of the world pressed upon their shoulders like a storm cloud. In the afternoon, a group of wise men from the east arrived, guided by a star that blazed as if in testament to something monumental. Their presence was regal, a stark contrast to the humble setting they entered. These men, learned in the ways of the heavens, brought gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. They approached Mary, their reverence palpable as they addressed her, "Where is he who has been born King of the Jews?" One of them asked, his voice rich with awe. "For we have seen his star in the east and have come to worship him." Their inquiry echoed through the air, a deep reverberation of destiny that sent shivers down Mary's spine. Mary exchanged a glance with Joseph, understanding passing silently between them. The wise men, standing tall, did not appear swayed by the surroundings. They recognized the significance in the ordinary. Will they see him as we do? Mary wondered aloud, the thought a haunting question. Will they discern the glory cloaked in simplicity? "It is not our task to dictate what their eyes perceive," Joseph replied quietly. "We are to prepare a space for wonder and discovery. Perhaps they will walk the path alongside us and uncover the reality of his light." The weight of their responsibility grew yet again, intertwined with the thrill of divine confirmation. As they shared stories of the stars and the prophecies that foretold this moment, Mary noticed a growing sense of urgency among the wise men. They spoke of Herod, a ruler whose heart chased power with a greed that seemed unparalleled. The words of a child destined for greatness nestled alongside the fear of a king who would cling fiercely to his throne. The path to recognition often spirals through peril, one of the wise men reflected, gaze piercing through the doubts as if glimpsing a deeper truth. The air thickened with anxiety as Mary felt a flicker of dread. Could the very presence of hope bring about a threat to their child? Would the world they sought to enlighten respond with acceptance, or would fear drive them to cling to darkness? "Joseph," she whispered, the weight of it all settling within her once more, "are we equipped for the trials that lie ahead?" He gently embraced her and spoke words that would bolster her heart. "Faith is not a shield against tribulation, but the anchor that holds when the storms arise. We may not have the blueprint for every challenge, but we can cultivate a home that radiates warmth. We can embrace vulnerability, and through that openness, let our hearts act as vessels of hope." His steadfast conviction steadied her spirit, but uncertainty still lingered like a shadow refusing to disperse. As night fell, the stars twinkled brightly, echoing the unresolved questions of her heart. The wise men lingered, their laughter a hopeful melody amidst the turmoil. Yet, as their light shone upon this humble home, an unsettling thought arose. Would the very message of love and compassion risk becoming a casualty in a world that often chose darkness over light? Could they rally the weary souls around them to witness the profound truth of a Savior born in humility, or would fear silence the message before it could resonate? What if the greatest challenge was not to reveal the light, but rather to embody it, even as shadows closed in? And in the quest to unveil this miracle, would they be tasked with more than just nurturing a child, but with reawakening a world to the sanctity of love, amidst its deepest fears? As the quiet of the night settled over Bethlehem, Mary felt a mixture of warmth and unease wrap around her like a thin blanket. The wise men stayed close, igniting a flicker of joy as they exchanged stories of distant lands and ancient prophecies. Their laughter, while comforting, felt like a delicate balance against the encroaching darkness that lurked at the edges of their newfound celebration. Yet with discussion came a profound realization: the arrival of her son was only the beginning of a greater narrative unfolding. Mary watched as the wise men recounted the ancient texts foretold by prophets of old, weaving tales of a Messiah who would challenge the very fabric of their world. The prophecy's weight hung heavy in the air, stirring questions Mary had scarcely dared to voice. "Tell me," she asked, a tremor in her voice that betrayed the stillness she sought. "What do you believe this child is destined to do?" One wise man, clothed in robes that shimmered like the night sky, leaned closer. "He is to be a king beyond all kings, one who will shatter the chains of oppression and usher in a new realm of peace. He will heal the sick, bind the broken-hearted, and lead with an unyielding spirit." The words hung in her ears, igniting something deep within that wrestled with the ambiguous reality of their situation. "Yet," he continued, a shadow crossing his features, "with the coming of such light, darkness will stir. Kings will rise against him, warriors will clamor for power, and not all will welcome the truth." Mary felt her heart constrict as fear and wonder tangled together, creating a dance of conflicting emotions. "A king?" she whispered, glancing at her sleeping child. "But he is so small, so fragile. How can such greatness lie in this innocent heart?" "He is marked for greatness not by the strength of his stature, but by the love within him," another wise man interjected, his eyes glimmering with understanding. "His authority will not wield a sword, but extend a hand of compassion. In the face of draconian rule, his message will be one of grace, provoking both reverence and opposition." This duality signifies the sacred path ahead. Joseph sat, a steadfast guardian amidst the revelations. "Surely the world will resist what they fail to understand," he remarked thoughtfully. "Power often fears the gentle light of truth. If he is to lead through love, he will encounter those who would rather extinguish such illumination." The flickering oil lamps cast shadows on their faces, echoing the stirring uncertainties in Mary's heart. What if the path requires sacrifice? What if our voices in the night echo against walls built of fear? The wise men nodded, solemnity settling among them. One elder leaned forward. "The truth often collides with the mundane. You must prepare not merely to shield him, but also to nurture the spirit that will change the world. This mission is not given lightly, it invites discomfort and even strife." Mary's heart ached at the implications nesting in those words. Each tender moment spent with her child was now intertwined with the weight of the future. And how do we exist in a world of hostility, when our only desire is to share love? By living the truth, the elder advised gently. It begins with you. Through kindness, even in the face of adversity, a ripple can resonate wider than you can imagine. The greatest struggle will be sustaining hope, even when surrounded by disbelief. As they delved deeper into these philosophical depths, a soft rustling broke through their discussion, a reminder of their hidden world. The baby stirred, a tiny hand reaching toward the night sky, as if grasping at the very stars that had led the wise men here. Mary felt tears stream freely down her face. Could it be that such a small life held the potential to reshape the very fabric of existence? What trials would they endure on this path? Even as she sought an answer in the night, an unsettling thought dawned upon her: could their role surpass that of caretakers, demanding that they become champions of light, willing to venture into the shadows, not merely as protectors of their child, but as instigators of transformative love in a world longing for hope? Where would that journey begin? Would their hearts be prepared for the uncertain storms ahead, even as they clung to the breath of something holy and divine? The air in the humble dwelling was thick with mystique and whispered uncertainties as the night deepened. Mary, still wiping the remnants of her tears, shifted her gaze from the wise men to the sleeping form in the cradle. There was a weight to her thoughts that insisted she peer beyond the immediate affection for her child, beyond the joy present in this miraculous birth. The wise men had gathered closer now, their expressions reflecting the flickers of the lamp as they continued their dialogue. As we have journeyed toward him, one began, we have been burdened with visions, echoes of the prophecies. It is said that those who would seek him shall indeed find themselves transformed. You must know, the path will not merely affect him, it shall ripple through the lives of all who come near. Mary shivered slightly at the implications. Transformed? What sort of transformation do you speak of? She asked, a newfound urgency in her voice, the kind that plunges a heart into turmoil. Spoke another wise man, his hands folded thoughtfully. To follow him will be to confront the core of one's being, to wrestle with desires and convictions that are long upheld. It provokes the fundamental question in every soul, what is worth pursuing? And how do we navigate the sacrifices it demands? As these words sank in, Mary experienced a sinking feeling in her stomach. If this child's mission had the power to disrupt the very essence of human desire, what would that mean for the world? She recalled the parables of struggle and grace that had guided her through her own journey. Are we then to prepare not just for opposition, but for the upheaval of our own hearts? Yes, replied the elder, his voice soft but firm. Each soul drawn to him will face a reckoning with their own shadows. For the light that resides in him will illuminate and expose the darkness that resides within. This light carries the potential for healing, but it demands the soul's willingness to confront that which is hidden and held dearly. Joseph, who had been absorbing everything with the weight of a protector, frowned. What assurance do we have that this siege of the heart will not shatter the fragile peace we cling to? What if it tears our family apart, or flings us into the abyss of despair? Even the most radiant of suns causes the earth to quake in upheaval, one wise man responded. The truth often finds its way to the heart not through gentleness, but through turbulence. But know this, it is in that very turbulence that love is also forged anew. The child before you is a living testament that amidst the greatest storms, there is refuge in the embrace of a higher call. Mary pondered this deeper revelation. If love was the compass guiding their journey, would it be enough to sustain them through the consequent chaos of expectation and fear? The notion felt daunting yet curiously liberating. What if this journey is not ours to direct, she mused, but rather one we must traverse with faith, surrendering our need for certainty? The wise men nodded in slow understanding. To walk in faith is to acknowledge that every step taken in love is illuminated by a divine purpose, often beyond our sight. It requires patience, a continuous renewal of trust in what is yet to unfold. As soft coos emerged from the cradle, Mary felt the stirring presence of her son. His tiny hand opened and closed, as though tracing the very fabric of dreams. Could this child truly navigate the powerful currents of the world, shifting the course of humanity just with the light he would bring? A question rested heavily upon her heart as she contemplated their uncertain road ahead. Would their commitment to fostering love prepare them to face the deep currents of division and pain, or would they find themselves drowning in the echoes of those they sought to uplift? As the days and nights unfurled in a tapestry of uncertainty, the world outside continued to swirl with whispers of dread and prophecy intertwined. Mary and Joseph stood at the heart of a divine confluence, cradling their infant son, the bearer of hopes woven with fragility. In the quiet of their modest home, the path ahead remained shrouded in a haze of unknowns, an aura both daunting yet ripe with potential. At the dawn of a new day, Mary awoke to a peculiar stillness, the air thick with a sensation of impending change. She turned to her sleeping child, and a shiver ran through her at the weight of his destiny resting within her arms. A voice broke the silence. Joseph, kneeling beside her, his eyes reflecting the concern that carved lines into his youthful face. A dream came to me last night, he whispered, wrestling with the significance of what had perceived. An angel spoke, warning me that we must flee. Herod seeks the child, the heart of power is delicate, yet deadly. Terror clawed at Mary's stomach, yet in her core, an unwavering determination ignited. We cannot stay, she replied, her voice steadying, spurred on by the resolve that had guided her thus far. Let us prepare for the journey. We will safeguard him, Joseph. This child carries the light to illuminate the darkest corners. As night draped across the sky, the trio garnered their meager belongings, a poignant farewell to the home that had birthed such miracles. The wise men had departed secretly, having heeded the call to avoid Herod, but their own wisdom echoed still, a collective understanding of the tremors of love and sacrifice that would forever bind them together. They traversed into the uncertain night, shadows wrapping around them, each step laced with the weight of surrender. As they journeyed, the world unfolded like a fragile bud, trembling at the promise of spring. The gentle cries of their son nestled in the starlit air felt like a lullaby to their weary hearts, and Mary surrendered her fears to the unknown. Days turned to weeks as they navigated through lands unfamiliar, guided by whispers and instincts. Each corner turned, revealing stories that interlinked their lives, elements of a greater narrative. They bore witness to kindness while simultaneously unveiled the shadow of fear writ upon the faces of those who were also longing for hope. Mary often turned her gaze to the night sky, seeking solace within its depths. Her thoughts clung to the heavy truth she was beginning to grasp: this journey was not merely about protecting her child, but about embodying the very essence of love they sought to share, a love resilient enough to face the storms ahead. One evening, under a canopy of stars, they found respite near a humble encampment. Around a flickering fire, travelers exchanged tales of their own tribulations, weaving feats of courage with tremors of hardship. Mary listened, her heart swelling as she realized the sacred tapestry forming around her, each thread a part of a larger design, touching lives with gentle yet profound ripples. When evening arrived, Joseph sat with her, both deep in their thoughts. Will there come a day when the world embraces him as we grasp hold of his light? He questioned, his brow knit with concern. If he is destined for such greatness, will love alone bind the broken-hearted, or will blood be shed in pursuit of change? Mary's heart ached, she understood his fears. Perhaps they are bound together, she mused, awareness brightening her resolve. In the throes of love, transformation is seldom comfortable. But if we embrace this journey, we must learn how to navigate the storm, to hold tight to the truth within ourselves. As they spoke, the air shimmered with a palpable understanding, a realization dawning upon them that their roles far exceeded that of mere caretakers. They were ambassadors of love, carriers of a new vision to a world steeped in shadows. Would they rise to confront the tides of fear that swirled relentlessly, or would they cower in the presence of giants? In the quiet of the night, Mary cradled the child close, and as she locked eyes with him, an epiphany washed over her, like sunlight breaking through a thunderous storm. This child, encompassing purity and profound truth, would compel them all, each seeker, each doubter, down a path of rediscovering the depths of love buried beneath layers of despair. The birth of this king signified more than dominion, it heralded a return to the heart, where even the darkest fears could be washed away by the transformative power of grace. And the comforting embrace of her husband, she spoke aloud the revelation now nestled within. He is more than a king. He is a luminous guide leading us homeward to awaken the hearts of the lost. Our role is to act as vessels, to bear witness that love beckons from every hidden corner. As they set forth the next day, Mary felt lighter, a prickle of hope ran through her limbs. They would walk with compassion, revealing the fragmented yet beautiful journey of existence to every soul they encountered. And with every act of kindness, an echo reverberated across distant lands, a summoning of hearts to witness the miracle unfolding in human form. Their travels took them far from the confines of their initial fears, leading them to ancestral cities, marketplaces filled with vibrant culture, and corners rich with stories yearning to merge with theirs. Mary and Joseph shared not only the miracle of their son, but also the deep truth nestled inside love, how it carried the weight of sorrow alongside the joy, how it demanded courage yet promised fulfillment. Into the hearts of men and women, their story seeped like ripples upon a pond, spreading far beyond the horizon. They shared not only the tale of the King of Kings but also the raw honesty of existence, the trials and tribulations endured, the laughter shared amidst tears, and the ever-hopeful illumination that such a life could bring. As their journey wove into the fabric of history, the precious child, a symbol of rebirth, stood on the precipice of a revelation, destined to redefine the purpose of awakening to love's brilliance. And just as dawn rises after the darkest night, this truth would soon unfold before the world, a powerful testimony that reverberated beyond their lives and into each heart waiting to believe, and so it was, across ages and generations, the legacy of their journey merged with the sacred truth that they had discovered. True strength arises from the heart willing to embrace vulnerability, to face the tempest with resolute grace. For the king would come to show humanity that even amidst chaos, love remains the unyielding foundation upon which we can build a world renewed, a promise fulfilled. In the end, it was not merely an answer that echoed throughout time, but the resounding truth that shines still today: the world can transform if only it dares to embrace the fragility of love, allowing it to blossom in every darkened corner, lighting the path toward redemption. Through the child, it was understood at last real kingship comes not in the lifting of swords, but in the unrelenting act of holding each other close, nurturing the fragile flame of hope until the world could see its light reflected in their eyes.